If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, then you need to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. The way we do things here around Chat Sports, more subs equals more videos. You guys just crossed 1,000 subs. So first off, before I get into today's show, I want to give you a round of applause. But there is still plenty of work to get done. So if you want more videos here on this channel around the Baltimore Ravens, then I need you to subscribe. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, ready to walk you guys through the Ravens vs. Panthers Week 2 preseason preview. Plus, I'm going to give you some key players to watch on the offensive side of the football and on the defensive side of the football in this ball game here. Plus, if you're a betting junkie, I got plenty of odds and over-unders as well for you. So when you look at this one here, the Baltimore Ravens, they're on the road. They're going to be traveling to Charlotte, North Carolina on Saturday, August 21st to take on the Carolina Panthers. Baltimore is 3-point favorites, which you guys can see right over there. And then the total over-under in this one is 35.5 points. In terms of over-unders, this is actually kind of an average score compared to a lot of the other preseason games. So what I want you guys to do before we get into today's show is predict the score. Baltimore Ravens on the road against the Carolina Panthers. And what do we do here at Chat Sports? We give you guys news and rumors. We give you guys segments, analysis, but what makes us great is the interaction. So I'm counting on you guys to go down in those comments, give me your score predictions, and if you want to know my score prediction, I got it coming up at the very end of today's video. So the first thing we're going to cover is the offensive side of the football. We're going to be breaking down each position, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an update, if you will, on which guys I'm going to be watching. Plus, I do have an injury update on Mark Andrews as well. So in terms of the quarterback play, Trace McSorley's battling an injury. He's not going to be playing in this one, which is why they went out and signed Kenji. Tyler Huntley could be somebody that gets most of the snaps in this one. But let's face it, the player that I'm looking at, the player that everyone cares about, it's Lamar Jackson. So he didn't play in the first preseason game. Missed 10 days this offseason due to COVID, and this was his second time that he has had COVID. But Jackson, apparently according to reports, has looked absolutely phenomenal in joint practices. And I'm not just talking reports from the Baltimore side. If anything, the beat writers on Panthers that have covered the Carolina Panthers have been even more impressed with Jackson. We know that the former MVP is one of the best players, if not one of the most athletic players that has ever played in the National Football League. So here's my question to you. I get it's the preseason, but you know what? I love watching talent, and you can't deny that Lamar Jackson's better than Huntley, right? So do you guys want Lamar to play up against the Carolina Panthers? If you're like, hell yeah, Mitch, I want to see some of that action, I want you to go down in the comments and type Y for yes. If you're like, no, I don't want to see it, you can type your N for no. I'm going to go ahead and type my N for no, and the only reason why I'm going to do it is, don't get me wrong, I want to see it happen. I want the Ravens to keep their winning streak alive, but we know Lamar Jackson is great, and if he were to get hurt in this game, dude, I would feel bad for saying that I wanted him to play, and I bet y'all would too. So let's get him ready for week 1. Let's make sure he's up to speed. We know he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Let's now go to the running back position here. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and then Justice Hill. Which one of these players am I going to be talking about? Well, in fact, I'm actually not going to talk about any of those top 3 running backs. The name that I'm going to focus on here is Tyson Williams. And some of you are like, who the hell is Tyson Williams? If you don't know this name, then you have not been watching Baltimore training camp, because he's been lighting it up. Now, I would say that he's on the roster bubble despite having a pretty solid game last week in a solid training camp. He led the team with 5 receptions. He also had 10 carries for 41 yards. For you math majors out there, that's 4.1 yards per carry. One of the reasons why I was very impressed with him is obviously with all these injuries that Baltimore has at the wide receiver position, Williams was able to step up and be that reliable pass catcher. And when you talk about a lot of the other running backs behind Dobbins, no disrespect to Gus Bus, he's not the best pass catcher. Hill as well. I mean, if Williams could come in and fill that role and still be 6 foot, 220 pounds, I think that's pretty impressive. The next position that we're going to get into here is the wide receiver position. Marquise Hollywood, Brown, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman. I don't think any of these guys are going to play this upcoming week, and well, that'll be kind of interesting to see what happens. Hopefully that they're ready to go for week 1 on Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. But the name that I'm going to go to here is Tylan Wallace, the rookie out of Oklahoma State. So he's drafted in the 4th round, 131 overall. But he had 2 targets last week and has been one of these popular breakout candidates or popular sleeper names because he's got the size, he's got good hands, and he's been very impressive thus far at Ravens training camp. What I want to see him now is doing on the football field because, there's a lot of guys that they can show up in practice. But now here's the time where you got your top 3 receivers down. They're all hurt. Brown, Watkins, and Bateman. This is a time where Wallace, a young player, a rookie, needs to step up, make some big plays, and really create more of a name for himself, if you will. So what do you guys think here? I'm curious. Out of all the players on the offensive side of the football, and I imagine everyone's probably going to type Lamar Jackson. That's the guy you're most excited to watch on offense. But you can put Lamar, that's fine. But how about this? Go the extra step. Be an overachiever. Give me another name besides Jackson because there's a lot of different areas you could go. Some of you might go ahead and say Mark Andrews, but there was a report out there that I'm not 100% sure if he is going to be playing in this Saturday matchup because something actually pretty scary happened to Andrews today at joint practices. He was actually carted off the field as he collapsed on the field. And originally I saw collapse, an ambulance got involved, they gave him an IV, and anytime you see that, you're like, oh my gosh, obviously you hope the guy's okay. Luckily, it's not believed to be very serious. I'll say unlucky. He was dealing with severe cramps, and I guess one of the reports was dehydration. He was pushing himself. It was a very hot day in Carolina, which maybe he wasn't 100% used to. It does sound like Mark Andrews is okay, but he's more than likely not going to play against Carolina. If he does play against Carolina, that's probably going to be my answer of which guy I'm going to be watching the closest because I want to make sure that he's all right. Let's go to the offensive line now. And I'm really curious how the offensive line ends up stacking out here. Obviously, you got Alejandro Villanueva at right tackle, opposite Ronnie Stanley. Meanwhile, Zeitler comes to Baltimore to take over the right guard spot. How are these two going to perform? That still kind of remains to be seen. But when you talk about Carolina, they have some pretty good edge rushers in Brian Burns. However, it might lack some of the extra depth as well. I want to see how this interior offensive line stacks up against guys like Derek Brown, Daquan Jones. All right, so guys, I got a hell of a deal going on. I'm going to pull my best Billy Mays here. Billy Mays here for only the next 365 days. You got a limited time. Free Ravens videos. Take advantage of our deal right now. Hit that big red button that says subscribe. Did I do okay? I don't know. If I did a halfway decent job, seriously, subscribe for more Ravens videos. If you are already subbed, take that link that you see below. Send it to some friends. I know you guys are over 1,000 subs, but if you want more videos on this channel, I need you to subscribe. Let's go to the next thing here. We're going to be talking about the defensive side of the football. So, players to watch on the D. Giggity. So we're first here going to start with some of these big guys up front. Actually, I'm wrong. We're going to talk about the quarterback position. It's Sam Darnold. Wait a minute. Why are we talking about the opposing quarterback? Because it's not too often that I could actually sit here and say, and if reports are true, that Darnold, he's expected to play, and he might play an entire half. And if that's what you get to see, I want to see how the defense stacks up against a starting caliber quarterback. Some people in New York might disagree with that statement, but he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. After they traded for him, they gave up a second-round pick, a sixth-round pick, probably a little bit much, but hey, he is going to be a starting quarterback. So how can guys like Wolf, Williams, Campbell, how can they get after him? How can you create a little bit of pressure? I want to see Matabuke. He needs to be able to step up in this game for me as well. So that's definitely one area. Another area here is Odafe Owe, edge rusher from Penn State. He's been really good at training camp, which everyone's out there. We know that he's athletic. We know that he's got the burst. He's got all these amazing attributes. I've been hearing it, and honestly, I've been watching it since his days at Penn State. But it's time to show it on the field. Why? This guy didn't have any sacks his final year at Penn State, and when you talk about everyone at camp, well, apparently he looks great at practice. I don't give a shit about practice. I want to see some production on the field, and if I read one more article that's like, Owe needs a sack, Owe needs a sack, I mean, I'm about to offer up my sack so that this guy can get one. So I want to see a sack this week from Odafe Owe. Let's go to the linebacker position now, where there's a lot of depth here. Bowser, Harrison, Queen, McPhee. I mean, this is probably one of the most complete linebacking units in the league. And then obviously you throw in Owe. You got the veteran Justin Houston. The name that I'm going to sit here and look at has been somebody that I actually thought would have been a lot more productive, but has been kind of buried on this depth chart here. It's Jalen Ferguson. And I saw a report about 2-3 days ago that was like Ferguson's on the roster bubble. He's still not a lock whatsoever to go ahead and make this roster. He needs to be able to continue to be a solid pass rusher. Anytime a team loses a player like Matthew Judon, you need as many people to fill in those places as humanly possible. Now, the other area that Carolina usually really incorporates its running backs is in the passing game. There was another report out there that you could see Baltimore as a test, if you will, put a lot of their linebackers on some running backs. If Ferguson goes up against Christian McCaffrey, he's going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10. But if he at least gets out there and gets some reps in, it is something I'm going to be looking at, and I believe the coaching staff is going to be looking at as well, because if he is on that roster bubble, maybe makes a few key plays, and maybe he can save himself a roster spot. So just like I asked you earlier in the video about the offense, let's now talk about the defense, right? Which player are you most excited to watch on the defensive side of the football? There's a lot of names there. Me personally, it is Jason Owe, Odafe Owe. If you want to throw 2 names down there for the price of 1, you can go ahead and do so. Let's talk about the secondary now. One of the most complete secondaries in the entire league. Arguably the best cornerback duo in the league as well, with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the safeties. I am, though, going to look at the nickel position, and the player that I'm going to talk about is the 5th-round pick out of Ohio State. It's Shaun Wade. He did have an interception up against Ian Book, which basically sealed the win last week for the Ravens up against New Orleans, in which I'm just now finding out the Caesars Palace or Caesars Superdome, which is just crazy to me. But getting off tangent here, Wade did have that pick with the final minute 41 left remaining, and I expect him to get more playing time in this game. One of the interesting things about Wade is if he would have came out in the draft in 2020, he might have been a first-round pick. Like, it's kind of crazy to me, right? Like, he might have been a first-round pick. Definitely would have think he would have been in the top 2 rounds. Fell all the way down to the 5th round due to a lot of inconsistency at Ohio State, and you saw some of that inconsistency in the first preseason game. He's a rookie. I'm going to be patient, but I know he's got some talent. He just needs to be able to be a little bit more consistent and put it together on the field. So in terms of the preseason Week 2 game, Ravens -3 favorites. The Carolina Panthers, the over-under in this one is 35.5 points. I told you before I started this video, I'm going to go ahead and give you my score prediction. Here it is. Baltimore Ravens win 23-13 on the road up against the Carolina Panthers. And if you didn't know this stat, if you want to hear the coolest stat that you're going to hear today, and just more of a reason that you should watch this preseason game, if the Ravens win this game, it would be 19 straight preseason wins. I heard that and I almost threw up. I mean, that's insane to me. So if you made it this far in the video, I want you to type 19 for 19 straight playoff wins. And one more time, take the link below, send it to your mom, send it to your dad, send it to a Ravens fan. We need more subs on the channel.